I get asked for advice on building all the time, and I've made some videos in the past about it, like builder's bibles and tutorials and such. I made a roofing video a while ago, and I figured that because I was so young and dumb and annoying in that video, I should recreate it and give you guys some better tips about like how to do roofs and such, because now we have octagonal roofing and also glass roofs, which are very different from the kind of things I was talking about in the last roofing video, so I'll link it down below. But I'm going to give you guys some pro tips, and yes, I call myself a pro about how to do roofing in The Sims 4. I made a video once in a builder's bible, and I was just like talking about floor plans and stuff, and somebody in the comments was like, my husband and I think you're a narcissist, because I did a tutorial video. So like, hopefully I don't come across as a narcissist today, but I do have some pro tips for you guys, I think. I build all the time, and I feel like I'm okay at roofing. I get told that, so it must be true, right? Okay, so as you can see, I've placed a few different houses here that I want to show you the roofing for, because I built these two houses that are very similar in color, but wildly different styles. So I want to show you like how the roofing can make a huge difference and that kind of thing. And I also want to actually just re-roof this whole house for you, because I feel like with a difficult kind of shape of house, it's really hard to do the roofing, and seeing my thought process might help you guys. So I'll talk you through that one. And then I'll give you some tips about like the roofing for these two houses, and also some other sort of things that I can show you, like tips and tricks basically. But let's go ahead and jump right on into this roof. The Greystone Acres house, which this house has some like diagonal bits, it's got octagonal bits, it's got everything you could possibly need to make the most difficult roof to finish. But as you can see, I'm really proud of this house, and it's one of my favorites I've done in a long time, so I want to show you how I did the roofing on it. Also, when I placed the lot down, my terrain paint moved, and I'm not happy about it, but I'm going to move this tree so I can actually see the roof here. But again, kind of a weird shape we've got going on, and once you take the roof off, you'll see it's even worse. So I'm going to remove all these pieces, all of my hard work just down the drain, and I will talk you through my thought process here, because like I said, the shape of this house before the roof is on, very strange. Now, whenever I do a builder's bible, I talk about this fancy box process for building a house, where every house begins with a fancy box, right? You build a box and add on to it. And I know it's hard to see now because the walls are all different and stuff, but this house also has an original fancy box, okay? And it's right here. Now, I've obviously moved some things around and changed stuff, but this was the original box that I had built. And that same box follows through to the upstairs. That same box is right here, and the same thing goes for the upstairs. You can kind of see it right there. The main fancy box is where the main largest roof bit should go. I always say to roof the largest bit first, and I think it's really easy once you put that fancy box roof on. If you have it on the original spot, it kind of gives you direction for the rest of the roof. I also want to make it a little bit lower on here. I'm going to put it down like 3, I think. And I'm going to put another big roof bit, I think, through here. And I'll draw it back a bit so it kind of lines up with this roof. And then I'm going to add some gabled roofs, which are like my favorite roof type right here. I'll move it down 1, 2, 3. You can see that kind of lines up with where my original roof was. But I'll put that one there. I'll put another one of them over here. And you see how it's like not fully lined up in here? I'm going to draw it back one so it lines up completely with that. I'm going to grab that same roof and put it over here. I think a really important tip I've noticed with my own builds is that when you make all of the roofs at the same angle, the house looks so much better. Because for example, if I had this one as like the default height and the rest of them lowered a little bit, doesn't it look kind of weird that this one is at a higher angle than the other one right here is? If you have them at the same height, it looks so much better. Back here on these bigger pieces, I'm going to put another one of these same roofs we had on the main bit of the house, draw it back so it just kind of like evenly lines up with the rest of the roof, and then get one of these gabled roofs for like a detail piece in the front. Same thing here with like the detail right there. And then I'm going to want to draw out these corners, because as you can see, the roof is like flush. This kind of roof is flush with the wall. That's kind of ugly. I like to draw the corner out so it has a bit of an overhang like how these do. So I'm going to do that for all of them. I think it makes a huge difference. Now we have this super weird bit in the front of the house though, because of this weird diagonal it's got going on, which nobody likes, but it's okay. So I'm going to put another like fancy, more half-gabled roof there. And then I'm going to put another diagonal bit in the front, because I feel like if I have some sort of roofing hanging off, so you can see I placed it right there. I'm going to drag the corner out so it has an overhang to kind of like hide these weird corners that are coming from this roof. And then I put a tree in front of it to hide the weird poking out corners, because you, look, now you can't tell that it's happening. I always do the second floor first for some reason. I don't know why, because I think the hardest bit is the second floor, right? But now we're gonna go and do the first floor because there's a bunch of random bits that need roofing down here. And generally on the first floor, I like to use these half-gabled roofs to fill in the overhangs. So I'll kind of lower them down to about that angle, kind of to give a good spacing, like a good even spacing above and below the windows, if that makes sense. And I'll put that same roof, I'll just keep copying it and replacing it over and over where all of these roof bits are. Do the same in the back. Now this one, because I wanted it to be more even with the top, I actually copy this, and I'm gonna put that bit there just to give some like addition to over here. And then over here, I'm gonna copy the same roof again and just make sure I'm filling up all of the empty spaces. And that's basically the whole roofing done, except for the octagonal bits. Now, I'm gonna put over here, just in the side piece, just like that, and then drag out the edges. Maybe lower it down a tiny bit, just to kind of like fill that in. I think that looks really, really good. And same thing over here. I'm gonna get an octagonal roof. I'm gonna have to fill it up to be the same size, move it around a bit, and then drag the corners out, and also lower it down because it's really tall right now. And then that covers that side. Now, we have a bunch of messy roof things going on right now, and as you can see, this one looks kind of weird because it's like dragged out a little bit and kind of stopping in the middle of the wall. I'm gonna drag it back to where it's even with the wall, and then hold shift and drag this tiny arrow, so you can see it left the overhang on this side, but not on this side. This is what it looks like originally, and then I hold shift. You have to hold shift, and then it only does one side. If you just drag the arrow, it'll do both sides of the trim, but I still want the overhang in the front. So I'm gonna hold shift and just move back that one side. And then, as you can see, I think it looks pretty good. I'll just go and repaint all of these pieces that are now missing color on the top. I'll put the roof coloring around the whole thing, and then I will grab some roof trim. This is my favorite one. I like this one in the back, but I also always used to use this one. So you can kind of pick whatever trim you think looks best. It kind of depends on the house. Also, the coloring obviously depends on the house and stuff, but I think I'm going to use this one and make sure it's on every roof piece. I'll put that tree back that I had. And then boom, the house is done and roofed again. The house next door, you can see, has a very similar color scheme, but the roof is completely different. If you look at them next to each other, they're both kind of green, they have the same roof coloring, but this house is like a Dutch colonial sort of inspired house, so it has all these round bits, it has the dormers, and so it's really different from the house next door. But this one, the default roof placement is this sort of pointy and taller version, but if you hold these little circles, you can sort of move up and down like how curved the roof is. So you can see I made mine a little bit curved to kind of match the style of the house. And also, again, you'll see how they're all the same amount of curve and same amount of like pitch. So that all looks kind of even and nice together. This build over here is like a bowling alley, and it's sort of supposed to be built in like an old factory. So the roof is all metal and fancy and like kind of weird looking and modern. I also have this giant glass roof skylight that look at how it shines inside. It's really cool. But this skylight, I found that glass roofs are kind of hard to make work in the game, right? Because when you build just like a little house and you go to put like a roof on it, you know, you put the roof there, and then what, you put the glass coloring and it looks like that. Doesn't that look kind of dumb? I don't know, like I feel like I just can't make glass roofs work like this, and then the overhang looks weird, and like I don't know how to make it work and like match and work well with other roofing, but I found that doing it this way looks really cool and works like a skylight. You can make it as big or small as you want, and I'm going to show you how I did this. So this roof is a lot of different pieces, as you can see by that. Now it's all gone. I'm going to redo it and show you what I was doing. So I've got one piece here. I'm going to drag it across the whole side back there, and then I'm going to copy it and just put it over here and then try and like reline it up. But you're gonna want it, this one's like off center, so I'm gonna try and make it so it lines up like that. You can see they're the same height now. But you're gonna need a bunch of different pieces to make this one work. So first, I'm gonna make this piece a bunch smaller, and I'm gonna say, okay, I wanna put my skylight, I think, like right here. I'll put it in the middle, sort of here. So I've got a piece on either side, and then I'm gonna wanna put a piece behind it to kind of mark out, okay, the skylight's gonna go in there now, right? So we've got it all sort of spaced out. We've put roofs around where the skylight's gonna go, like the normal roof. And then you grab another roof piece, put it in the middle there, and then make it so it's one piece smaller, so it's just a tiny bit lower than the rest of the roof. You can see how I just scooted it back one, so instead of it being lined up, it's just one piece smaller. And then I put my skylight coloring in there, put the roof texture on, but you can see how there's like a weird clipping thing going on. You're gonna wanna hold shift and then drag this arrow back like I did before, and do the same thing over here so that it moves those sides of the walls. And then I want you to drag this piece and this piece over so it kind of like goes into it. And then line it back up. And so I have still trim like hanging over on this side and on this side, but on this side, there's no overhang. And there's just a big skylight in the middle of the roof. And it looks like it's just an inside bit of the roof, but it has to be done where it's like lining up with the other side for it to work like this. I've been doing this a lot recently in other builds. I've built a few restaurants that have skylights like this. I just think it's a fun way to add on to the house. Like I would do a lot of times, I'll do it on like this part of the roof. So if I have like an extra, even on a regular house, not even in like a fancy build, I'll have like an extra bit where it's like a bump out here and I'm like, oh, you know what I can do? Let me just quickly put some roofing on this piece, and then I'll do this sort of skylight just like on the side of the house. In like a greenhouse, you could do this if there's a greenhouse on the side of your house. I feel like it looks really cool, and I'm really enjoying doing it recently. See, I did it the exact same way. I just put that roofing bit, oh, wrong side, yikes. Put the roofing bit there, and then you have a skylight on the side of the build too. I mean, I wouldn't go crazy. I wouldn't put it in 2 places in the build, but I mean, then you have like a skylight over the bar there. I just think it's kind of cool, and that's a fun thing I've been doing. I get asked how I do that a lot, because it's kind of a weird one. It's not hard to do, it's just got some steps involved. I'm on an empty lot now, because I want to show you guys just like some random tips that I found about building, because the roof, I'm really weird and picky about the roof like tucking in properly to the build, if that makes any sense. So I built a really simple house. I mean, it's just a box, but like I built a simple house, simple roof, just like this. And as you can see, first of all, I made them the same pitch, so the same height, these two. But I hate how it looks with this side and this side. Like there's just this random overhang that kind of just stops at a random part of the build. I hate that. I think it looks so dumb. So I'm going to show you how I fix that. The first step is to go ahead and make sure that it's as far back as you can get it, just like this. And then obviously you have this weird, like it's hanging out like this. It's not tucked in. I want this to be tucked in here, but I don't want the weird overhang. So I'm going to push it back to right there, so it's just barely, it's lined up with the same block. You see they're both lined up right here. And then I'm going to copy the roof and put another one right here, so it kind of like gets flush into the side. And then on this one, I'll use this thing to just raise up so there's not an overhang there. And then on this one, I'm going to hold shift again and then use the corner bit so that it goes back one. And then it's not quite lined up perfectly, but you can see it's lined up a lot better there with the pieces kind of going into each other. And it looks so much less bad. Other times to fix this, I might put a chimney. If I can't fix it, I'll put a chimney here. And then I'll like line up the roof bit with the chimney so it doesn't look like it ends in the middle of nowhere. Or I might add on like an extra bump out there and throw a roof on so that it kind of lines up into that roof and isn't just like stopping in the middle of nowhere. I'm very weird about the roof like lining up well and not looking dumb and like this basically. But this is a great way to hide roof things. And again, I'm really weird about the roof like lining up and being flush inside of this one, so I always make sure I drag it back far enough so that it's in there. Another thing I see all the time is people asking how you can put like a second story. Say for example, I want to put a room in the second floor of this build, because I mean the roof is pretty tall. You can have a second floor inside of this roof, right? I mean it looks kind of weird, but I mean sometimes it works. Like in this house over here, I have a room in the attic if I wanted to, but when you're trying to furnish in there, if I build the room out just so that it lines up perfectly and isn't like showing itself, if I try and furnish up there in that room, I have to put the walls all the way down in order to do it. And also you can't see anything because there's roofing bits everywhere blocking your view. And so say I wanted to do that, have that room up there in that attic. To do it instead, I can get the exact same look, but I'm gonna take one piece on one side. I'm gonna line it up perfectly, and then I'm gonna make sure that it's flush up there, and then I'll hold shift and drag the corner down so there isn't like an overhang up there. I'll copy that same roof bit and I'll put it over here, and then you can get a full gabled roof, remove both sides of the corners, and then put it across. And now you could leave it kind of looking sort of like round-ish, or you could like make it lower if you wanted to have like a lot of Dutch style or like barn sort of houses are like this, or you could drag it up and so it looks more even with the height of them. But then when you go try and furnish in here, you can actually see the room. So you can see it's the exact same look as if I had taken this and dragged it all the way up, right? Oh, it's not tall enough. It looks the exact same as if I mean, there's some clipping because it's all a bunch of roof pieces, but it looks the exact same as this piece. It's just one whole roof piece. But when this one's there, you can't see the inside very well. Like, look at that. That's a mess. But when it's just the 3 different pieces, you can actually furnish the inside, and there's not, like, roofs covering your view and stuff. And I think this looks really cute, like that kind of roof. I think it's really nice. I kind of want to build this house now. Look, look, look. You could do that, and then you could have, like, a balcony in the front here. This could be a really cute house. I'm not doing it right now. I've got an idea though. Earlier I mentioned to always do the roof for the biggest part of the house first, and that goes for every house. Like with this house, for example, I would always put the roof across this side first. Oftentimes I'll use like a gabled roof going long ways the direction of the biggest part, and then do the smaller parts afterward. But like this is basically how I do the roof for every single house I've ever built in my entire life. I'll put a gabled roof on across the widest part, another one in the front of the house. Like this is just how my roofing goes every single time. But again, roof the biggest part first. Okay, I think that's the best I can give you guys as far as advice though. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I'll link some more builder's bibles and build tutorials down below. I have a ton of tips and tricks for you all of different kinds of things like floor plans and cheat codes and landscaping and such. But with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and cut off right here. Make sure to leave a like and comment and subscribe and do all those fun YouTube things. And in case you didn't know, I post new videos every single day, and so I will see you all tomorrow. Bye everybody. My husband and I think you're a narcissist. My husband and I think you're a narcissist.